It was the kind of late afternoon on the high plains when the sky felt too big, stretching out in endless shades of dusty blue, and the wind came whispering across the sagebrush like it was carrying someone's last words, and Jed Carver, 45 years old, long since past believing life still had surprises left for him, rode his bay gelding along the narrow trail toward his ranch, his mind on nothing but the fence line repairs waiting at home, when he saw her, a figure stumbling through the heat shimmer, half a mile off the track, skirts torn, hair loose, moving with the desperation of someone outrunning more than just the sun, and before he could call out, she collapsed forward into the dirt, still clutching something to her chest, a bundle wrapped in oilcloth and bound with a strip of frayed leather, as if she'd die before letting it go. He was off his horse in a heartbeat, boots kicking up dust as he knelt beside her, his calloused hands turning her gently, seeing the cracked lips, the sweat, the wild flicker in her eyes as they struggled to focus on him. And then she whispered it, the words ragged and urgent like she'd been saving the last of her strength just to say them. "Please. Don't open it," before her head lolled sideways and her breathing went shallow. Jed hesitated, glancing at the bundle, curiosity flickering through him like a match in dry tinder, but whatever was in there could wait, because she sure as hell wouldn't, so he lifted her easily into his arms, slinging her across the saddle and mounting behind her, one arm holding her steady as he urged the gelding into a hard ride for home, the sun dipping lower with every pounding stride. At the cabin, he laid her on his bed, his one clean blanket covering her, and put water to her lips until she swallowed, then turned his gaze to that bundle, about the size of a loaf of bread, heavier than it looked, and warm to the touch in a way that set the hairs on his neck standing. But her words held him back. He busied himself stoking the fire, listening to the low, uneven sound of her breathing, when far off on the wind came another sound, the faint rumble of hooves, not many, but moving fast, too fast for travelers, too steady for cowhands, and sure enough, within minutes he saw them, 3 riders cresting the ridge, their silhouettes sharp against the bruised sky, all wide-brimmed hats and long dusters, the glint of rifles slung low. They rode like men who knew exactly where they were going, and when they drew up 100 yards from his porch, the one in front, tall, lean, with eyes the color of weathered steel, called out, "Afternoon, friend. We're lookin' for a woman, passed this way carryin' something that ain't hers. You seen her?" Jed rested a hand lightly on his Winchester, leaning against the porch post like a man with no hurry in him, and said he hadn't seen anyone but himself out here, his voice flat and easy, though his pulse was ticking faster, and the leader's gaze slid past him toward the window, narrowing. "If she comes by," the man said, "you best tell us what she's got, it's dangerous." Then, without another word, they wheeled their horses and rode back the way they'd come. But Jed knew men like that didn't just give up. They'd circle around, watch the place, wait for their chance. Inside, the woman was awake now, her face pale under the grime, eyes burning as she clutched the bundle tighter. And when he told her about the riders, she flinched, whispering, "If they get it, they'll kill us both." And he asked what it was, but she only shook her head, saying it was proof that a man high up in the territory, with money and law on his side, was not the hero folks thought but the devil behind a dozen killings, and this bundle was the one thing that could hang him. The rest of the day passed slow, the shadows stretching long, and as night fell, a storm rolled in, the wind slamming rain against the windows, the kind of blackness outside that swallows a man whole. And Jed sat by the table cleaning his rifle, knowing the riders could come any time. It was just past midnight when the horses came again, closer this time, the creak of leather, the quiet shuffle of boots in the wet grass, and then a voice outside, low and mocking. "Evenin', Carver. Let's not make this harder than it needs to be. Hand over the girl and what she's carryin'." The first shot shattered the lamp, plunging the room into darkness, and Jed moved by memory, rolling across the floor as glass rained down, the thunder outside masking the crack of his Winchester. A shadow fell in the doorway, and his shot dropped it, the body thudding against the frame, and for a long, savage minute the cabin was all gun smoke and flashes of light, until at last the silence came, broken only by the rain. When he lit another lamp, 2 men lay in the mud outside, the third gone into the night, but he'd be back, and he'd bring more. Clara, she'd told him her name in a whisper between the gunfire, was shaking, her knuckles white around the bundle, and Jed knew they couldn't stay. By dawn they were riding out, heading into the mountains, every turn of the trail taking them deeper into country where only the desperate or the dead went. And on the third night, camped by a Blackwater creek, Clara woke screaming from a dream, clutching the bundle so hard he thought she'd crush it, and that's when his own resolve cracked. He told her he couldn't help her if he didn't know what he was protecting, and for a long moment she just stared at him, the firelight dancing in her eyes. Then she handed it over, her fingers trembling. Jed loosened the leather tie, peeled back the oilcloth, and froze, his mind trying to make sense of what he was seeing, because inside, wrapped in a blood-stained baby's blanket, was not gold, not papers, but a small, glass jar, sealed tight, and floating in cloudy liquid was a human hand, the skin pale and puckered, the fingers curled around something, a silver ring, carved with the seal of the territory's most powerful judge. Clara's voice was shaking as she told him it was the judge's missing son, gone for months, and the proof that the man had killed his own blood to keep some darker secret buried. Jed wrapped it back up, his stomach tight, knowing now why the men would chase them to the ends of the earth, because this wasn't just about revenge, it was about survival, and not theirs alone. And as the fire crackled low, Jed looked at Clara and said the words that bound them together from that moment on. "Then we don't run anymore. We ride to town. We show them. The trail ahead would be blood, danger, and the kind of fight only the desperate take on." But Jed Carver had been a lonely man too long to turn away now. And if you believe there are still stories worth hearing, about grit, sacrifice, and the way 2 strangers can change the course of justice, then hit that subscribe button right now, because this was only the beginning, and the West has 1,000 more secrets waiting to be told.